For a lot of Final Cut Pro users, the default transitions simply just aren't enough. They're not as good, and we do definitely want those custom transitions. Custom transitions are hard to acquire in Final Cut Pro, and a lot of times you're going to have to pay a lot of money for subscriptions for things like FX Factory to get very simple, basic transitions that is commonly offered in most other softwares. Now, what if I told you you could make your own Final Cut Pro transitions? Whether you wanted to go ahead and sell them so that you could be just like FX Factory and maybe make a quick buck or two, or if you just want to go ahead and finally get those free transitions or replicate transitions that you wish you had but just don't. So, to go ahead and start this today, we're going to pop up in Motion. So Motion does not come with Final Cut Pro. It is a completely separate software, but if you do have Final Cut Pro, I highly recommend you get Motion. In general, you want to go ahead and for a Final Cut Pro transition, choose something around 60 FPS. You can make a large variety of transitions. Motion comes with so many fancy different things. You've got custom fonts, you've got all of this. You've got shapes, gradients, you've got particle emitters, things which you've never even seen in Final Cut Pro before. And that's simply why Motion is just so helpful to run with Final Cut Pro. Now, I'm not going to be going ahead and doing anything too fancy today. I'm not going to be going ahead and doing some cool blur stuff. I'm not going to be, generating fire or smoke. You know, we're just going to go ahead and make a simple transition, a sliding transition, and it already exists in Final Cut Pro, and it's definitely a good way to start off by learning how to make these transitions. So, to go ahead and make this transition, the first thing you're going to want to do is learn about the different things here in Motion, because it definitely doesn't look too similar to Final Cut Pro. Now, let's first start off with this. You never want to keep it at 100%. You want to always click Fit. This way, you've got a full view on the transition you're making, effect you're making, or whatever you're doing in Motion. So these checkboxes over here can go ahead and reduce the visibility of specific things. And these over here are the transitions and the clips themselves. So in a transition, there's normally two clips that are being somehow transitioned to each other, and that's what these two clips are. Transition A is basically clip A. This is the clip that, this is the first clip in that transition, and transition B is the second clip in that transition. Over here, it's represented by the green arrow and the red arrow, and when you go ahead and put this into Final Cut, it's going to go ahead and not show up like green arrow, red arrow, Anyways, so we're going to first start off, this is going to be a simple slide transition, so we're going to start off by going ahead and putting both of these on top of each other. Transition A and transition B. Now, you're probably wondering about why there's two of them and why they're on top of each other. Don't worry too much about it for now, but for something as basic as this, you're not really going to need to know too much about that. So as you can see right now, transition A is overlapping transition B, so you just see a green arrow. But now transition A disappears and turns into a red arrow, and then it turns black because, we don't have anything afterwards. So we're going to go ahead and quickly start off by teaching you how to keyframe in this. It's very similar to how Final Cut has its keyframes, as you can see. Keyframing in Motion is very similar to keyframing in Final Cut. As you can see, you go over here, you've got your transform, you've got your blending, you've got all of this media, timing, drop shadow, all of this kind of stuff. But this is, the basic things that are also in Final Cut Pro. And it even has the same exact icon as for keyframing as it does in Final Cut Pro. Now, we're over here selecting transition A, and what we're going to do is put down a keyframe for, to keep it in place. So we're going to say that what this is doing is we're saying that in the first frame, transition A is supposed to be over here. Now, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and move this slider over to the side. Let's go ahead and say I want this for, we're going to go for, let's go for 200 frames, something around there. Yeah, cool. And what we're going to do is just move it to the side. Now, you see this red line, right? Tracking this. This red line tracking this shows that, it's moving from here over to here. And that's what's going to happen over the time period of this frames. So it's not like you need to manually keyframe each and every single frame. It will automatically move it for you. So that is pretty simple stuff right now. I'm trying to move this to the side. And as you can see, it's gone. So now let's go ahead and view what this looks like so far. As you can see, it slowly moves to the side, and that is pretty neat. Let's go ahead and now work on transition B. Now, here comes the check marks. We remove transition A so that we could focus entirely on transition B. Now, what we're going to do is start by removing it from the view. We don't want it to be shown on screen, transition B. We're going to completely just move this out to the side. Kind of just do that. Cool. Let's go ahead and add a keyframe. This keyframe is saying it's starting off at the X position of 1277, meaning it is off screen. You will not see it for the first frame. We're going to re-enable transition A. And what we're going to do is just watch it go through. And around the time when it disappears, which is 200 frames, right? So then we're going to go ahead and move this to the side. And now you see the red line coming from out of the bounds, right? So that red line is showing it's going to move from there to here. And that's it, actually. Now, what you've got is, as you see, they both move together and reveal the next slide. Now, you probably want to know how to bring this into FCP, actually. It's not going to have much use in motion. So what you're going to want to do is go to File, and you're going to want to click Save. Now, you're able to go ahead and create folders, whatever. I'm going to put this into my transitions and go ahead and say, call it, I don't know, Slide Together, because that's what it's doing. You could also apply themes, all this kind of random stuff, but yeah. Now, once you click the publish, it will automatically be put into your FCP folder of transitions, meaning that a lot of times, unlike how maybe if you download a transition online or go ahead and buy a transition pack where you'll have to manually put them into the folder, Motion will automatically put into the folder for you. And inside of the movie folder of Finder, as you can see, if we were to go to Motion Templates, which is a folder that's always there, even if you don't have Motion. If we go to Transitions, My Transitions, Slide Together, we have this. So we're now going to go into Final Cut Pro, and I'm going to show you that the transition does in fact work. We're going to go to My Transitions, just like the folder name is, and then over here we got Slide Together, and you can see it even shows it, it even shows the preview of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to toss it in the middle there, and voila. Obviously it looked a lot more faster than you probably expected, so you could always increase the duration. So we're going to do 10-second duration. Oh my god, what have I done? And as you can see, it goes in slow motion. Now obviously there are things you can do to tidy up. These photos aren't exactly completely full screen, quote unquote, so it's not like it's gonna be perfect, but yeah. And that is how you make a Final Cut Pro transition with the help of Motion.